matters. And Longhorn Publishers seems to be in the spotlight recently. So we'll obviously keep a keen eye on any further developments.
Exactly, and this actually reminds me something on, was it CIPLA?
Oh, CIPLA. Actually, Gloria, I've been hearing, I know about what is going on within CIPLA currently with their newest advancements, the developments going on with the share prices, their latest endorsement of almost 50% of the company's shares.
50% of the company's shares.
Absolutely. Actually, getting right into its performance, we're looking at it closing at 65 Ugandan shillings per share price. Am I true?
Yeah, you are.
Yes, actually, this is positioning it at the fourth best performer on the Uganda Securities Exchange. It's showing an impressive 8.33% gain since the beginning of the year.
That's right, Victor. And over the past 3 months, CIPLA has been quite active, ranking it as the 8th most traded share, actually. And its volume has been around 517,934 shares. These were valued actually at around 34.8 million Ugandan shillings.
Interesting. Actually, it's also valuable to note that CIPLA has been averaging at 8,222 traded shares per session. And the highest volume was on September 13th, reaching 211,000 shares traded.
Exactly. So let's take a closer look at this last 10 trading days actually, because the stock has been holding steady, and today's closing price was actually at 65.00 Ugandan shillings, maintaining that trend. Indeed,
and it seems like CIPLA is making a mark on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Investors must indeed keep a keen eye, because looking at that 65 Ugandan shillings share price, there's a lot of promise that it is going to kick all the way up to that 7, because looking at the graph as it has been shown to you, we're looking at it doesn't move. It has a dominant level. It drops, keeps at that point for a couple of months, shares shoot up, keeps at that point. It is the best example of a stock that is not going to stress you out.
Exactly, and a very good example of a stock investor should keep an eye on.
Exactly. So I think that push that is within the middle of that line graph represents the latest news regarding their high amount of shares recently purchased.
Exactly.
But we will indeed bring more information on that as the company continues to reveal more of this information.
Absolutely, and with those trading figures, it's clear that our CIPLA is actually active in the market.
It really is, and we will continue to monitor this stock closely to keep you updated on all further developments.
Exactly, and so could you lead us through the Johannesburg Securities Exchange?
Certainly, Gloria. So moving on to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, it had an eventful day, as usual, particularly for the Johannesburg Securities Exchange.
Yeah.
And absolutely breaking it down in terms of digits, we saw 238,946,596 million shares traded in 331,532 deals, with a market value of 16,251,993,473.67 rands compared to Friday. Actually, we notice a 4% uptick in volume particularly, but interestingly, there is an 11% decline in turnover and a 6% dip in number of deals.
Exactly, that's right, Victor. And the market capitalization of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange currently stands at a whopping 18.4 trillion rands. And now let's talk about the individual equities that participated in yesterday's stock exchange, where we have African equity that stole the spotlight, leading the gainers with a 20% share price appreciation, closing at around 1.08 rand per share.
And of course, following closely, we had DRA Global. We are seeing Santrix Namibia Bond, ETF, and Karoo with significant gains as well. On the flip side, we're looking at Huge Group. Actually, these ones particularly faced a tough day, marking the biggest loser with a 10.91% depreciation, closing at 1.95 rands per share.
Interesting, and it's really good to see how these are, like, in fact, actually to note out that our Old Mutual took the lead in terms of volume with around 19 million traded shares, actually, Victor. So we had also Growth Point properties coming in. We had First Rand, and we also had Simbanye. Simbanye Stillwater also saw a stable, substantial day as of yesterday's trading session.
So obviously, turning our attention to the market indices, we are looking at the FTSE Johannesburg Stock Exchange All Share Index that climbed 227.03 points, closing at 73,146.75 rands. It is a 0.31% increase, contributing to a 2.09% gain for the week. However, over the past 4 weeks, we have seen a 1.93% loss on a brighter tone, and the year-to-date gain stands at 0.13%.
Absolutely, and it's actually not mentioning the performance of other indices. Looking at, let me say, the JSE Small Cap Index, the Large Cap Index, and the Top 40 Index. Also the Fledgling Index and the Mid Cap Index. Each showing their own unique movements and performances and trends on the market.
So overall, a mixed bag of results. We'll keep a close eye on how these trends continue to play out throughout the week. And actually, before we leave the Johannesburg Securities Exchange, I would want to put our focus on one of their highlighted performers, particularly Old Mutual.
Exactly.
Getting into Old Mutual's detail, it is actually a key player, and it closed yesterday at 12.35 rands per share, marking a 1.6% dip from the previous day. Quite
Absolutely, and it's interesting to note that Old Mutual has seen around 18.1% increase in its share price since the beginning of the year. It's actually a significant climb, not a dip this time around, putting them at 67th position in terms of the year-to-date performance on the Johannesburg Securities Exchange.
Indeed, indeed. And it seems investors have been quite active with Old Mutual, because it's ranked as the 5th most traded stock on the Johannesburg Securities Exchange over the past 3 months. And they have seen a total volume of 758 million shares exchanged in nearly 194,000 deals. So this is, of course, totaling to a hefty 9.53 billion rands in value.
Exactly, and that's a substantial figure, Victor. And looking at the daily activity, September 21st stood out with around a high volume of almost 27 million shares that were traded. While on September 4th, we saw a low of 4.61 million. This is quite a range. It's a big range, actually.
Absolutely. And actually, the market can be quite dynamic. I will never stop mentioning that. It is fascinating to see how actually the EBB and flow of these numbers is playing out. But particularly Old Mutual seems to be a stock that is capturing a lot of attention. Endeavor to keep your eye out for this one particularly.
Exactly, and with all its activities, it's clear that it's making waves on the JSE. So really, you have to keep an eye out for this one, all investors out there.
Obviously. So, Will, Gloria, could you give us any highlights on other losers, companies that are going through a hard period? We are looking at a huge group, is it? Among them.
Oh, it's huge actually. It has been quite a roller coaster ride for this one. When yesterday we saw like huge close at around 1.96 rands per share, marking it at around 10.9% share price drop on its previous trading price. That's quite a dip.
Quite a dip. And for those keeping track, a huge group started the year at 2.85 rands per share, but it has taken a bit of a hit, losing 31.2% of its value since then. Not the best year for them.
Exactly. In fact, the current ranks actually stand around 353 on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. In fact, in terms of year-to-date performance, so it's been happening over the last 3 months.
Actually, to throw some light on what has been happening within those past 3 months within this huge group, it was the 1318th most traded stock on the Johannesburg Securities Exchange during that period, and it has seen a total volume of 227,225 shares traded in 68 deals. So of course this is valued at nearly 500,000 rands. On average, about 3,607 shares were traded per session. And it is actually interesting that it stands out on this particular day of September 4th, because they hit a volume high of 42,235. So obviously, looking at our chart all the way from September, playing out all the way from August, it has been quite a year for them. We're looking at stables, we're looking at bears, then we're looking at we're seeing all kinds of movements, but particularly the stock is coming down. I don't know if the company has yet released any public any public kind of notification for their shareholders to inform them of what exactly is going on. This is not yet actually a situation investors or shareholders should be scared about, but the performance hasn't been its best this year.
Exactly.
Because looking at that chart, it is not impressive at all.
Yeah, obviously there's some fluctuations here and there, but obviously it seems like it has been performing, however.
Yes, actually.
Well, definitely, with the current share price at around 1.96 rands, it's interesting actually to see how a huge group actually navigates these market dynamics in the coming days.
That's right. That's exactly right. And well, particularly moving on to the Nigeria Stock Exchange, Gloria, take us through.
Well, from the Nigeria Stock Exchange, actually, Victor, it was an eventful day. There, and let's start with the overall market performance. Actually, as of the close of yesterday, we had a total of around 216 million traded shares. Yeah, these were traded in around 5,965 deals with a market value of around 3 billion Nigerian naira.
Absolutely. Now, compared to the previous trading day, we saw a 4% decline in trading volume. We are seeing a 15% decline in turnover. But interestingly, we are seeing an 18% improvement within the number of deals. Actually, the current market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange stands at 36.8 trillion Nigerian naira.
Interesting. And when we look at the individual equities, it's a mixed bag, and out of the 121 listed equities, we had 18 gainers and 23 losers. We had a Royal Exchange that took the lead among the gainers, actually with an impressive 8.51 share price appreciation.
Impressive.
Closing at around 0.51 per share in Nigerian naira.
Yes.
Exactly. And we also had Consolidated Hallmark Insurance, which followed with around 6.96% increase. National Salt Company with 5.55%. Actually 5.45%, and Dangote Sugar Refinery at 3.13%.
Well, looking at the flip side or bottom losers, we are seeing Stanbic IBTC Holdings, and it experienced a significant decline, of course, closing the day with 10%, with a 10% price depreciation, and of course closing at a 72 per share Nigerian naira. Well, Stanbic IBTC Holdings wasn't alone in the red zone. we're seeing Sovereign Trust Insurance, we're seeing Okumu Oil, Okumu Oil Palm, we're seeing Owando, and it also faced price depreciations ranging from 9.24% to 10%, as the tickets have been displayed for you on the screen.
Exactly. And moving on to the most traded stocks, we see United Bank for Africa that recorded the highest volume with around 32.6 million shares, followed by Fidelity Bank with 29 million shares. We had Aiko Insurance with 15.6 million shares, and also Dangote Sugar Refinery with 10.6 million shares that were traded.
Now diving into the performance of market indices, the Nigeria Stock Exchange All Share Index closed at 67,037.93, reflecting a slight decrease of 0.24%. Well, over the past week, we saw a minor loss of 0.09%, while the 4-week trend showed a 0.46% decline. However, the year-to-date gain is still strong at 30.8%.
Absolutely, Victor. And when we look at the other notable indices, we have the Nigerian Top 30 Index, which impressed actually around 0.18% dip today, with around 33.85% year-to-year gain actually. So we had the Nigerian 50 top index that saw a larger decline of 1.11%, but also has an impressive 39.97% year-to-date gain.
The Nigeria Stock Exchange Banking Index was one of the positive performance as of yesterday, up by 0.94%, adding to its significant 62.1% year-to-date gain. The Nigeria Stock Exchange Consumer Goods Index also increased by 0.39%, and it brought the year-to-date gain to a whopping 96.03%, almost to 100%.
Exactly, and let's not forget the Nigerian Premium Index. This also saw a slight uptick of around 0.16%, contributing to a 36.86% year-to-date gain, actually. So lately, the Nigerian Industrial Index closed with a minus 0.06% decrease today, and it has around 14.7% year-to-date gain.
Well, that is the update within the Nigeria Stock Exchange. But before we leave, we would want to go through their biggest highlights, their performers, and their losers. But in this particular incident, we are going to look at the United Bank of Africa. Gloria, what do you have for us within the United Bank of Africa offices?
Well, looking at United Bank of Africa, it closed actually at around 17.95 per share. Yeah, and marking it around 2.3 gain, actually 2.3% gain from its previous closing price of around 17.55 Nigerian naira. That's
a significant jump. And looking at the year-to-date performance, UBA began the year with a share price of 7.60 Nigerian naira, and now it's at a 17.95 Nigerian naira, reflecting an impressive 136% gain. This places UBA at the 25th spot on the Nigeria Stock Exchange in terms of year-to-date performance.
Indeed, and shareholders must be optimistic about UBA. It's actually noteworthy that it has been over the past 4 weeks. Actually, the stock acquired around a 9% gain, ranking it the 24th best performer on the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
Indeed. And talking about UBA's trading activity, it has been the most traded stock on the Nigeria Stock Exchange over the past 3 months, as it has been illustrated on that particular graph. Well, from July 18th to October 16th, 2023, the bank has seen a total of 3.22 billion shares traded in 26,962 deals, and this is valuing all the way up to 48.4 billion Nigerian naira.
Exactly, and looking at its last 10 trading days, it provides a snapshot actually of the stock's recent performance.
It really does, and that is quite impressive because as we speak, on average, UBA has seen about 51.1 million traded shares per session. And notable events during this period include a volume high of 962 million shares traded on July 20th and a low of 6.39 million shares as of August 25th.
Absolutely, and it's clear that UBA has actually been making waves in the market. Whether you are a shareholder or just keeping an eye out for this one, we'll all accept that it has been on a financial landscape, and it's definitely a stock to watch out for.
So moving on to the other side of the non-performers, the losers, particularly in this case, we want to discuss about Stanbic IBTC Holdings. So particularly moving on to the Stanbic part, Gloria.
Exactly. Looking at our Stanbic, actually, we have the largest figures, actually. The stock actually closed at 72.00 Nigerian Naira, like per share. This was their share price index, and this was on Monday, actually, so marking a 10% drop from its previous figures, closing at around 80.00 Nigerian Naira. What's your take on that, Victor?
Well, it's indeed a notable dip. But let's not forget that Stanbic IBTC started the year at 33.45 Nigerian Naira per share with a current value of 72 Nigerian Naira. So that is a remarkable 115% increase in its year-to-date performance, making it the 29th best performing stock on the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
Interesting, Victor. We'll be back from this short break with more updates concerning our Stanbic Nigeria. Thank you.
Smart 24, driving business.